couple months ago, I read a newspaper article that I think all of us dread, and that is I read about a fellow who was having a real hard time with the government, being inspected and going through a bureaucracy, going through a red tape, one of those stories that makes everybody's heart sink. Then I read a little further, and I realized he was one of my constituents. And I was actually a little relieved to find out that his problems were not with the state government, but were with county governments. And the reason why he was having problems with county governments is because there's a patchwork of regulations across the state having to do with homemade food products. This gentleman is a baker, and he bakes bread that has reached sort of a cult status in the city of Los Angeles, and a lot of people buy it. He bakes it in a special outdoor oven. The ingredients in his bread are flour, water, and yeast. I don't even know if he uses yeast, but he bakes it in an outdoor oven. He sells it to local restaurants, and you know, other than that, he's a law-abiding citizen. But he was going through the ringer quite a bit, and so what we've done here is we've introduced the California Homemade Food Act, which creates a legal structure for safe home production and sale of non-hazardous foods that are classified as a cottage food operation. These are things like tortillas, jams and jellies, roasted nuts, people who dry basil from their backyard and who want to sell it. You know, I don't think we as government owe a duty to make these businesses the next big businesses. We don't owe anybody a duty to create Nabisco, but we do owe a duty to them to stop stifling these micro businesses and so that they can become small businesses and become medium-sized businesses. So I think this is a path to prosperity for so many entrepreneurs, so many different communities, and they have come to us willingly, said they want to give up their life of crime and become legit. They want to subject themselves to periodic inspections if it is appropriate, and they want to go through the actual regime of being legitimized as a business.
I'm the co-founder of the Los Angeles Bread Bakers, and I am a serious home baker. After I ran afoul with the Los Angeles County Department of Environmental Health last June for selling my homemade bread at local shops, I made a commitment to work with the department to see if there was a legitimate way for a small-scale bread baker such as myself to launch a micro-enterprise without going deeply into debt. I quickly discovered that this effort to find a way to legally sell my homemade bread in the second largest city in the U.S. was going to be complicated. After learning that about half the states in the Union had laws on the books that allowed small-scale home-based producers to sell the not potentially hazardous foods they made, I decided that the best course of action would be to work towards passage of such a law in California, a law that learns from the experience of other states, a law that meets the needs of the rapidly growing community-based food movement while safeguarding public health. It turned out that the Oakland-based Sustainable Economies Law Center was thinking the same thing. The 300 members of the Los Angeles Bread Bakers agreed with the center that it was time that California, the home of the locavore movement, have a cottage food law. And the bakers in the law center drafted legislation even before any legislator expressed interest in it. Last fall, I was surprised, to say the least, when Assemblyman Gatto called me out of the blue to ask to author the legislation. He'd heard about my run-in with the health department, and he wanted to help. He recognized the power of the burgeoning locavore movement, and his commitment to fostering community-based economic development is unquestioned. We've had the good fortune to work with Assemblyman Gatto's more than capable staff on this effort, along with the Sustainable Economies Law Center and Proyecto Jardín, a community garden based in Boyle Heights. LABB and the Proyecto are leading the drive, and the Grange, are leading the drive to secure support for the bill in Southern California, and the Sustainable Economies Law Center is coordinating the statewide effort to organize grassroots endorsements for it. So far, more than 4,000 bakers and other home-based food producers from throughout California have signed our petition in support of the Act, and more than 60 groups have officially endorsed it. In Southern California, we're surprised at just how widespread support for the bill is. We look forward to working with all these groups, including the health departments and the legislature, to make sure that California has the best possible cottage food law, one that will serve as a model for such laws across the country. While other states may have done it first, California has a chance to pass a cottage food law that's just right for California. So on behalf of all the bread bakers in Los Angeles and throughout California, I strongly urge you to vote in favor of this rational approach to helping launch micro-enterprises in communities across the state while providing these communities with a wonderful new source of locally produced foods that are as safe as they are delicious.